That morning there was no drumbeat, no shouted command. Only a hard-packed earthen courtyard still damp with dew, and an old wooden staircase descending from the eastern corridor. He stood there longer than necessary, not out of hesitation, simply because it was not yet time to step forward. They called him a samurai, but the title said very little. He was not the most distinguished, nor the first name spoken in the ranks. The fabric on his shoulders was worn. His sword was cleaned every morning, though it was rarely drawn from its sheath. Each step he placed onto the courtyard was the same, no faster, no slower. He grew up in a world where order was never spoken aloud. No one needed to be reminded whom to bow to. No law tablets hung on the walls. Everything was understood through distance, kept through lowered eyes, through silence held at the right moment. His struggle was not with strength, nor with courage. It lay in something far harder to see, the ability to remain upright. When no one was watching, there were mornings when he stood before those steps, knowing he would face someone above him, or someone older, or an enemy whose blade had already tasted blood. No emotion was named, only a repeated act. He bowed just enough, no deeper, no careless shallower, and then stepped down into the courtyard in silence. He did not seek to defeat anyone. He sought only to keep the world around him from slipping out of rhythm by a single beat, and that was the true trial. Asterisk that man does not begin his day in panic. He begins it with delay. Morning arrives on schedule, but he rarely arrives with it. The alarm rings. He turns it off, not because he overslept, but because he is not yet ready to step down the first stair of the day. He has lived this way for years. A stable job, a sufficient family life. No one would call him a failure, but every night, when the house sinks into silence, he knows what he has been avoiding all day. His body carries the marks of long neglect, not through sharp pain, but through the heaviness of standing up, through shortened breath after climbing a few steps, through choosing to sit instead of step forward. He never says he is tired. He simply pauses longer in front of things that were once simple. Breakfast is usually rushed. Dinner happens in front of a screen. Conversations are shortened with, "We'll talk later." Each day passes so similarly it's hard to tell them apart. The same familiar steps repeat along the same trajectory. Nothing wrong, but nothing moving forward either. He has tried to change more than once, but each attempt begins with grand resolve and ends in the familiar silence of the third or fourth morning, and then disappears. He doesn't ask, "How do I change?" He has read enough. What keeps him still is the question he has never said out loud. Is he still someone who can keep a promise to himself? Asterisk, everything did not collapse in a single day. It wore down. That there was no accident, no major incident. Just another ordinary morning when he stopped midway on the stairs and had to brace his hand against the wall longer than usual. Not because of pain, only because his body was no longer ready to obey immediately. He stood there, not moving forward, not stepping back, just standing still, listening to his own breathing in that brief pocket of silence. The signs had been there for a long time. Bending down to tie his shoes became a movement that required calculation. Playing with his child slowly turned into watching from the side. Invitations to go for a walk were answered with a nod, and then left there. No one said he was getting weaker, but the looks of expectation appeared less and less. He knew this wasn't new. He had tried to fix it before. There were periods when he woke up earlier than everyone else, weeks when he stripped almost everything from his meals, days when he forced his body to move until exhaustion. And then, like an old rule repeating itself, everything ended when the schedule grew tighter, when work pressure stretched longer, when the morning no longer had room for resolve. Each time, he didn't feel disappointment right away. He simply became quieter. Until one weekend afternoon, when he sat in the yard watching his child play alone, the ball rolling past the fence. "Dad, can you get it for me?" He stood up, took a few steps, bent down. And then he was there, on the damp ground, both hands touching the earth, unable to stand back up right away. No pain, no injury, just a body that no longer had enough strength to return him to a familiar posture. The silence stretched on. Too long. He heard small footsteps behind him. No questions, just observation. Someone else had to help him stand. That night, the room light stayed off. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, not thinking about weight, not thinking about plans. He thought about the memory that had just been created. And for the first time in many years, he didn't say, "I will change." He realized only one thing. If he kept standing still on this stair, there would be footsteps he would never be able to keep up with again. Asterisk Sangham Sao, KH Angko Li TH Kanko Khin Hooch Vitra Gifi, QAMT Quat Gi Enagi Cho MT Gi Bon Si, Gi Dai Not En Bit Chi Chi The Gi, Vei Kang Kile GMC, Jiing Noi Bun Kia Hude Kang Voi Vang, Kang Hai Ana G, Thea Nung G's Kang Hai Keneng Hai MCCTAU.ch Hai, MT Kao Engen, CU Kan Tin, Mchin Ko, The Ju Li EVV Chin Mchin Kang. Kao Hai Ko Kine Anham Long Kang Phi Vien Kang Bit Turv Li Ma Vien Ji Kwa Lao An Kang Ti Hai Heku Kai Vei Nge Sao An He Giji Trong MT Ken Fong Han Gin Kang Mi I Thuk Sat Trang Kang Man Hunenship Ne SP Liu Kaiko Ansang Boogie Sang Sai Kwa CXB Recham Tran MT Ban G Geji G Dion An Ellen Tugihan Dang Giji Thung CC Yong Tichuk Kang Chung MT Back SS Theo Jia Quenthu Chung MT Gi Ji Quen San Lao VVM Long NAK Kang Chen LCC Nung Lane BTH Hu Nung Lane BND Nung Boogie Sang Kang BGC Jung BSC Thang NGGG Kia Lung Eng Kang Gichep Kang ANT Li Ki and Heng Dungle Kao Turvli Hun Archti Cham Anhang CCKNT Thuk MT Kwok Chin Dai Hang Chak En Trong Veatan Kung Im Long Mu Rajia Haigi Kang Fi Ji Tran Lu Kia Ji Kao Noi Kai Kochahang Regi Kia Noi Tip Jing Hu Ne Nop Thi TSN Kang UCSU Nathag Kwok San Tchie Moon Ana Lam MT Va Nach Han MCC NASN Gi Nor Vian Jia Anhen England Miu Boogie Sang Ki Thik Dawai Turchak Ki Lam Biek TCHIOG Hai Ung MTCCC and GC Kang Ko Kao Sao Ko Kang Ko Ho Kion Kum Theo.chg Law MTBGC Chan Arch Teenage Jian Na Kang Hang K Anhe Muan Funback En Heng Kang TNT MGGC LS Du Thite Fea C.Gay Sham Rai HI Anna CNN LSC Ne Kang Fi La Thay GC The Malor MT Bunang Ching Rang Anan Vian Ko The Ju MT Li Iha Dilor Nach Ne Boogie Sang Ham Ko Kian He BGC Ra Engo EBSC Thang BNY Ko Na MGI Enge En Heng Lane Ne En Han Kang CC Sai Sha Ano Che J Chen Jung MTBSVV Lane HTN So Arch T Lao Ano Kangi Han Vyak SN Sai GGC Bo Sha Anha Kyugi Han Vyak Ingamai M Chan Ko The Jate BGC Chan Ko Le Lane Nia He Kang. Morning doesn't arrive with light, it arrives with the sound of an alarm ringing in a room that is still dark. 4 o'clock he doesn't jump up, he stays still, not because he's sleeping deeply, but because he's weighing the moment. In just a few seconds, every reason appears all at once. His body feels heavy, yesterday is unfinished, no one is watching. He turns over and sits up slowly, places his feet on the floor. That moment lasts longer than usual. As if he's standing before a stair he isn't sure he should step down from. The house is silent, no movement. No urging voice, he walks. The first footsteps of the day sound very soft, not because he's trying to be quiet, but because he isn't yet used to moving through the morning with awareness. On the table, a glass of water has been set out since the night before. He looks at it for a few seconds, doesn't think, just picks it up and drinks. The water is cold. It carries no special meaning, but when he sets the glass down, something small has happened. This morning did not pass by unconsciously. He stands still, doesn't move on to the next task, doesn't go back to bed. He just stands there, in silence, to feel that he has done one thing exactly as he promised himself. No one applauds. There's no sense of victory, only a very light steadiness, like placing your foot firmly on the first step. The next day the alarm rings again, and hesitation returns, but this time he knows exactly what he needs to do, not change his life. To step down the same stair, drink 1 glass of water, in silence, in the middle of the morning. And each time he does this, something quietly takes shape, not muscle. Not grand willpower, but a very small belief that he can keep moving forward, even if it's only 1 step each day. Asterisk, the first days pass very slowly, not because the task is difficult, but because it is too similar each time. Morning begins with the same sound, the same stretch of silence after the alarm is turned off, the same foot touching the floor, neither faster nor slower. He drinks the water, sets the glass down, stands still for a few seconds. There is no clear progress to report. His body still feels heavy. Old habits are still there. And this is what begins to test him, not fatigue. But the question that keeps returning in his mind, is this all? There is no new sensation, no reward, no one notices. Some mornings he stands in front of the glass longer than usual. He doesn't skip it, he just stands there, as if waiting for a more reasonable reason to continue. But he still drinks, then comes the meal. He doesn't change the food, he doesn't cut out old habits. He simply serves less. The plate looks uncomfortably empty. His hand wants to take more, but he doesn't rush. He stands up, washes his hands, goes to do something else. 20 minutes later, the urge is no longer as sharp as before, not because he is stronger, only because he didn't react immediately. Every day looks the same. Drink water, eat a little less. No explanations. The monotony stretches on. It doesn't inspire, it carries no promise. But within that repetition, something is being sharpened. He begins to realize that strength doesn't come from explosive moments, but from staying where you are. One morning, he wakes before the alarm rings, not out of excitement, simply because his body has learned the rhythm. He reaches for the glass in silence. His steps are slightly lighter, not to avoid making noise, but because he is no longer resisting the morning. The monotony doesn't disappear, but it changes its role. From an adversary, It becomes the foundation. And on that foundation, he continues placing each step, steadily, without an audience, without the need for validation. Then the familiar rhythm is broken, not by a wrong decision, but by circumstances that wait for no one. One morning the rain falls heavily, wind lashes against the windows. The house is colder than usual. The alarm rings, then goes silent. He sits up more slowly, places his foot on the floor. His foot touches the cold surface, pulls back slightly, then stops. That moment stretches on, no moving forward, no stepping back, just standing on the familiar step. But this time, everything around him no longer supports the effort. The body protests more clearly, heavy shoulders, shortened breath. A thought appears smoothly, almost kindly. Today isn't like the other days. He still moves, not quickly, not decisively. His footsteps echo heavier through the dark hallway. The glass of water is still there. The water is still cold. He drinks. But this time, there is no familiar sense of steadiness, only a raw, grinding resistance outside. The rain doesn't stop. The workday stretches longer than expected. Conversations bring no relief. Evening arrives late. Dinner is no longer as orderly as before. His hand pauses over the spoon longer. He doesn't take more, but he doesn't walk away immediately either. He stands in the kitchen, yellow light pooling on the rain-damp floor, and for the first time in weeks, the thought returns clearly, not a temptation, just the old familiarity, waiting. He doesn't react right away. He doesn't force himself to be strong. He simply stands there, in silence, feeling the full weight of the day. The storm didn't come to destroy. It came to test whether the foundation truly existed. That night, he still places the glass on the table before sleeping, not out of confidence, but because he doesn't want to lose the one marker he has managed to keep. The next morning, the rain is still there, but he gets up again, not more enthusiastic, not easier, just this. He has learned how to keep moving when conditions are no longer favorable, and in the middle of that storm, he understands something he had never quite touched before. Discipline is not forged on calm days, but tempered in those mornings when there is no reason at all to move forward except this. He has decided not to stop. After the storm, things don't become easier, they become inviting. No more rain, no more cold, no more mornings that force him to endure. Instead, the days pass gently, the schedule loosens, the air feels lighter, and it's precisely then that a different temptation appears. Not a direct invitation, just a very reasonable thought. I've already come a long way. One evening, after a smooth workday, dinner is laid out more generously than usual. No one around him pays attention to his portion. No one asks him to hold to anything. The plate no longer has a clear boundary. His hand reaches for the spoon, then stops. That moment stretches on, no moving forward, no stepping back, just standing still, between two paths that both seem reasonable. One path says, just for today. The other says nothing at all. It simply reminds him of the silent mornings, the steady footsteps, the times he stood up when no one was watching. He doesn't argue with himself, doesn't list consequences. He simply sets the spoon down, not out of fear, but because he doesn't want to trade what is forming for an old familiar sensation. Choices like this don't make noise. They aren't noticed. But each time they're made, something is reinforced, not a rule on paper, but the feeling that he can trust himself. In the days that follow, temptation appears in other forms. A late night, an invitation, a very reasonable excuse to skip the next morning. Each time, he pauses, not for long, not in hesitation, just long enough to remember what he began with. Unbreakable resolve doesn't come from always being right. It comes from not betraying the small choices repeated so many times they could be mistaken for coincidence. And in that silence, he notices a very subtle change. Discipline is no longer something he has to grip tightly, but something that holds him steady among the easier paths. There is a morning when he realizes he has woken up without having to struggle, not because his body feels noticeably lighter, but because his mind no longer negotiates. The alarm goes off. He sits up. His feet touch the floor as if it has always been the obvious thing to do. The house is still silent. Morning still has no color yet, but this silence is no longer empty. It is full of mornings that passed the right way, full of moments standing on the threshold without turning back. The glass of water is no longer a reminder. It is part of the rhythm of life, like breathing, like the light slowly spreading across the window. He steps outside, not out of obligation, simply because his body wants to move. His footsteps no longer feel heavy, not because strength has suddenly increased, but because resistance has quietly left. Others begin to notice, not through stories, but through the way he shows up. He stands a little straighter, moves more cleanly, explains less. Discipline is no longer something he has to remind himself of. It becomes the way he moves through the morning, the way he sets a meal on the table, the way he leaves a temptation without needing justification. The glow of discipline is not bright or dazzling. It does not draw attention. It simply makes the people around him feel steady standing nearby. And more importantly, it makes him stop doubting who he is when no one is watching. He still steps down the familiar stairs, but each step now carries a different meaning. A test, but a confirmation that this person has been built from small footsteps, repeated in silence, every single morning. Asterisk, the challenge does not arrive when he is at his weakest. It arrives when everything seems fine. A holiday, a full table, familiar faces, laughter coming more easily than usual. No one reminds him to be careful. No one stops him. Everything allows it. The plate in front of him is fuller than on other days. His hand moves out of old habit, then stops in midair. That moment stretches no moving forward, no pulling back. Just standing still. Between two versions of himself, one version says, "One day won't change anything." The other says nothing. It simply brings him back to those silent mornings, the steps he descended when no one was watching, the steady footsteps in the darkness before dawn. He lowers his hand, not out of fear of consequences, but because he doesn't want to blur what took so long to build. But the challenge isn't over that night. Fatigue lingers longer than usual. His body slows. His mind feels heavy. The next morning the alarm sounds, and for the first time in months, he doesn't get up right away. He lies there, staring at the ceiling, counting each breath. If he skips today, no one will know. No one will ask. This moment carries no pressure, only a pure choice. He sits up, slower, heavier, his feet touch the floor. The familiar steps appear. He stands still, for a long time, not because he lacks strength, but because he understands clearly. If he goes back to bed now, nothing behind him will disappear immediately, but it will begin to crack. He steps forward, one step uncertain but real. The glass of water is still there. He drinks. There is no feeling of victory, only a deeper quiet. The climax is not a moment of explosion. It lives in the decision to repeat when emotion is no longer carrying you. And in that morning, he understands something he had never fully touched before. Discipline is not proven on perfect days, but by the moment you choose to stand up when there is no reason left to continue except that you have decided to become that person. If this is your morning, when everything allows you to turn back, how long will you stand on that threshold before you step forward? Asterisk, change does not arrive with the sound of something breaking. It comes like morning light slipping through the curtains when you're not paying attention. He no longer remembers exactly when waking up early began to feel natural. He only knows that one morning, he stood in front of the mirror and didn't rush to look away. Not because his body had become perfect. The old marks were still there. The limits hadn't completely disappeared, but his gaze had changed. Before, every day began with negotiation. Now, it begins with action. Nothing big, nothing dramatic, just a foot touching the floor without argument. The stairs in the house are no longer obstacles. They've become a quiet measure. He goes up, goes down, without noticing, without calculating. Morning is no longer something to endure. It's a space to place himself back into order. The people around him feel it before they even notice the physical change. He shows up differently, less rushed, less explaining, less promising. He doesn't say he has changed. He simply lives as if he is no longer someone who quits halfway. Meals are no longer battles. Evenings no longer end in exhaustion. Steps no longer carry doubt. Most importantly, he no longer needs to prove anything to himself. Discipline is no longer a fence holding him in place. It is the ground beneath his feet. He still has slow days, heavy mornings, but he no longer wonders whether he will return to the old path, because the old path no longer fits this person. And that is when transformation is complete, not when everything becomes easy, but when returning to the old version of yourself feels unfamiliar. Asterisk, there was no moment that marked the day he became a new person. Only repeated mornings, stairs descended in silence, footsteps placed carefully when no one was watching. Maybe you thought discipline was force, harshness, winning against yourself through tension. But what if discipline is simply not abandoning yourself each morning? What if change doesn't require massive motivation, but only one small action, simple enough to repeat? Tomorrow, when you stand before the first step of the day, how long will you pause before you move? You don't need a perfect plan. You only need a step small enough that you can't justify skipping it. If this story made you slow down for a moment today, hold on to that silence. And if you want to keep walking this path, like, share, and subscribe so that future mornings no longer pass by unconsciously. Because the person you become is not decided by explosive days, but by ordinary mornings you still choose to step into.